She stole my loves, I betrayed her by letting her fall for the one who destroyed her. The storm was brewing that night, wind howling like a pack of wolves, rattling windows and setting hearts pounding with its ferocity. In the small town of Millstone, where secrets hid under every stone and dark corners whispered untold tales, something impossible was about to unfold. Marie, the quintessential good girl, with her golden curls and infectious laughter, stood across the street from the flickering neon of the cafe, the same cafe where Ben had stolen her heart. But we were no longer just kids playing beneath the stars. Life had twisted the narrative into something dark, something unrecognizable. As the clock chimed midnight, a figure cloaked in shadows emerged from the alley, moving with a strange, disturbing grace. It was Zach, the one whose name sent chills down spines and tears to eyes. Rumors swirled he was dangerous, untouchable, a storm all his own. Yet, it was undeniable. He had a magnetic pull that drew everyone closer, including Marie. My heart raced, ball rising at the thought of her falling for him. Could she really see the monster he was? Marie's laughter echoed like a haunting melody, enchanting and filled with promise. Suddenly, a scream shattered the night, fracturing the facade of normalcy. The crowd gasped, faces blanching as if the very essence of fear leaked into the air. My fists clenched. I could feel the weight of my betrayal heavy in my chest. I had betrayed her trust in ways she would never understand. By letting her see the good in Zach, I had paved the road to her destruction. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As I stood there, frozen, heart pounding in my ears, the scene unfurled like a tragic play. Marie darted toward Zach, her eyes wide with confusion and fear, a twisted dance that felt choreographed by fate itself. The crowd buzzed with frantic whispers, some cowered in fear, others shouted warnings, but it was too late. Marie was already caught in his grip, drawn into the eye of the storm. Did she realize the danger lurking beneath his charming facade? What struck me most as I watched was the glint of excitement in her eyes, a sparkle that seemed so out of place. Did she crave the chaos, the thrill of the unknown? It twisted my gut to see her like this, yearning for something that felt so perilous. As I stepped forward, knowing I had to try to save her, the ground shook beneath my feet, thunder crashing overhead. The world blurred around me, and I wondered, could I intervene in time, or would I watch her dance with destruction? The air crackled with electricity as tension rose, all eyes on the unraveling drama. I stood teetering on the edge, agonizing over my next move. Time felt like quicksand, slipping away, and I knew that either choice could turn fatal. Her life hung in the balance, and it was my hand that had pushed her toward the very thing that could destroy her. A gust of wind howled through the street, sending a shiver down my spine. Instinctively, I took a step forward, but my feet felt like they were rooted to the ground. The chaos that unfurled before my eyes was paralyzing, like watching a train wreck in slow motion. Marie laughed again, a sound that twisted my stomach. It was light, carefree, while my world teetered on the brink of horror. Zach's eyes glinted with a predatory gleam that put every alarm bell in my head on full blast. He leaned in closer to her, and I felt the heat rising in my chest. Was he whispering sweet nothings or darker truths? The crowd behind me was awash of anxious faces, some torn between staying and running. They knew what he was capable of. I had to remind Marie. Yet, the thought of lunging forward sent a cold sweat trickling down my back. Would she even listen to me after everything? As if reading my thoughts, Zach straightened, flicking his gaze toward me. His smile was taunting, equally charming and repulsive. "Don't worry, I've got her," he said, his voice syrupy sweet but dripping with disdain. My limbs shook with rage as the realization hit. He knew I would act. He thrived on my discomfort, like a spider studying its prey before the kill. "Marie," I shouted, my voice cutting through the clamor. She turned slightly, confusion clouding her features as if she were trying to grasp the enormity of the moment. Get away from him. Desperation surged in my chest, clawing at me like a wild animal. But she didn't move. Instead, her eyes fluttered, the excitement she felt only moments ago now transformed into uncertainty. Was the thrill fading? Zach stepped forward, putting his body between Marie and me, a sly grin stretching on his lips. Why don't you let her decide for herself? Maybe she likes the chaos. Maybe she likes me. I felt a sickening jolt pass through me at his words. Did she really? What kind of magnetic hold did he have over her? The flicker of doubt in her eyes sent a fresh wave of dread coursing through me. I had to reach her. Marie, please. Come back to me. I implored, my heart racing. The crowd watched like silent witnesses, awaiting the next act in this tragic play. Tension thickened the air around us, each breath wounded by the weight of my words. Zach is not who you think he is. Her resolve seemed to waver, but just then, Zach grabbed her wrist, his grip firm yet oddly gentle. Stay with me, Marie. I know what you want. His voice dripped with manipulation, his words curling around her like vines. The wind picked up again, howling through the deserted street, drowning out my protests. I could see Maria's heart battling her mind, the war raging in her expression. And then it happened, a movement from the shadows. A figure lurked behind Zach, their intentions obscured. My heart plummeted. Who was it? Did they intend to help or make matters worse? My thoughts spiraled, fear gripping me hard. Get away from her. A voice boomed, cutting through the air like a knife. A rush of hope and dread washed over me as I recognized the figure. But just as the crowd parted for their entrance, a scream erupted from somewhere in the distance, sharpening the atmosphere. In that maddening moment, I felt time freeze, holding a collective breath. Something was coming, and it would change everything. Who was this new player, and what did they want with Marie and Zach? Would the storm outside be the only chaos tonight, or was it just a forewarning of something much darker waiting to unfold? A decision was looming, and the boundary between right and wrong felt perilously thin. As the tension snapped and everything surged forward, I stood straddling the chasm of fate, uncertain if I would pull her from the abyss or push her in even deeper. The figure emerged, cloaked in darkness, their presence suffocating the air around us. I squinted, trying to make out their face. My heartbeat quickened. I knew them. Of all the people to step into this whirlwind, it had to be him, Luke. Step away from her, Zach. Luke's voice was steady, despite the chaos swirling around us. The crowd seemed to hold its breath, the tension electrifying. I could hardly believe he was here, but part of me found a flicker of hope in his arrival. Maybe he could save Marie from Zach's insidious grip. Zach's brow furrowed. He tightened his hold on Maria's wrist, pulling her closer to him as if protecting a treasure. And who the hell are you? Zach shot back, his arrogance palpable. Another knight in shining armor? You think you can save her? Let her go. Luke advanced, each step calculated. I was frozen, tense with uncertainty, torn between cheering for Luke and the fear that his arrival could provoke Zach further. Maria's face flickered between fear and confusion. Could she sense the danger looming over her like a storm cloud? I desperately wanted to reach out, to pull her back from this brink. But Zach's grip seemed to tighten, and I felt the frustration boiling within me. Marie, please. I pleaded, searching her eyes for a response. You need to trust us. But instead of responding, she looked at Luke, then at Zach. What is happening? She murmured, her voice strained. Everything is fine. Zach insisted, feigning a calmness that I knew was phony. Just some friends trying to ruin our fun. He laughed, but there was a crazed edge to it, a sign of the predator unmasked. Just then, a loud crash echoed through the street, a window shattering across the way. Panic erupted in the crowd, and a wave of bodies surged backward, creating an open space. Luke gestured for Marie to move toward him, but Zach pulled her even closer, his face twisting with fury. I'm done playing games. Zach snapped, his voice low and menacing. You want chaos, Marie? Let us give them a show. Before I could react, he turned abruptly, swinging Marie around to face him. My chest tightened as I watched the wild glint in his eyes. They danced with madness and malice, a clear signal that he was ready to escalate to something far worse. "Marie," I shouted, desperation clawing at me. But my voice was lost in the disarray. The crowd was in a frenzy, scattered and shouting. And then it happened. In the moment of distraction, Luke lunged forward. He aimed for Zach, ready to break this nightmare cycle. My breath hitched, horrified and hopeful. Would this end in violence? As their bodies collided, chaos erupted, shouts echoed, and people began to scatter. The street transformed into a battleground, an arena of frayed nerves and raging emotions. Each face around me captured that mix of horror and intrigue, drawn into the frenzy. But amidst the noise, Marie stood stuck, her expression torn. She glimmered between Zach's dark charm and Luke's defiance, a fragile leaf caught in a storm. "Help me," she whispered, fear seeping through her voice, barely audible above the chaos. I took a step forward, my heart racing, but I hesitated. Was I strong enough to pull her from this? Was I just another mistake? Just then, the wind howled again, whipping through the street like a tangible force, and something deep inside me turned. I couldn't lose her. Not like this. "Marie," I shouted again, urgency fueling me. But then, from the corner of my eye, something shattered in the darkness lurking behind us, an unmistakable dart, glinting ominously under the streetlights. My stomach dropped as I realized this was no ordinary fight. Time felt like molasses as I processed the danger now rushing toward us. Who was this ambiguous threat? Were we caught in a web far larger than the chaos among us? Maria's stare flickered toward the danger, then back to me, uncertainty mixed with desperation. A decision loomed, heavier than ever. And in that moment of suspended fear, I questioned everything. Could I save her, or would we all pay the price? The fleeting spark of hope buried deep within me flickered precariously as I caught sight of the dart. It shone like a warning in the midst of tumult, an omen that screamed danger. My heart thrummed, each pulse a countdown echoing in my ears. As Luke collided with Zach, fists flying, the scene felt like a surreal nightmare. Everything slowed while time felt like some sinister trick. I motioned toward Marie, but she remained frozen, vulnerability written across her delicate features, like a deer caught in headlights. "Marie," I yelled again, the urgency of my voice rising above the chaos. "Get out of here." Zach swung at Luke, jaw clenched, fury radiating from him like a scorching heat wave. Luke dodged, throwing a fist aimed straight for Zach's face. The punch connected, a visceral sound that reverberated through the crowd. Cheers erupted, stark against the sounds of the brawl, yet I could only focus on Marie, still trapped in that turbulent space. Then I saw it, the glinting dart, larger than life, flying through the air toward us. My instincts kicked in. "Look out!" I screamed, desperate to draw her attention, but the chaos disoriented her. Too late. The dart struck her ankle with a sickening thud, and she gasped as if the air had been stolen from her. "Marie." The world shrank down to her, my chest tightening as I saw the momentary clarity in her eyes turn to confusion. The color drained from her face, and she stumbled back, her balance faltering. "What is happening?" she cried, hand clutching her leg, but the questions suffocated in the surrounding madness. I darted past shouting spectators, my heart racing as adrenaline surged through me. I reached her just as she slumped to the ground, panic clawing at my throat. "Stay with me," I urged, kneeling beside her. "Breathe, focus." Luke and Zach were still grappling, the fight a cyclone of limbs and violence that left me uneasy. Every strike echoed in my core like a reminder of how quickly things could descend into disaster. I can't feel my leg," she stammered, her voice trembling, and my heart broke at the helplessness in her eyes. "Marie, please," I said, my voice low and urgent. "Just hold on. We'll figure this out." I ripped off my shirt, torn between keeping her calm and handling the madness. I wrapped her ankle with it, hoping to at least slow the poison spreading through her. But then I heard the click. The crowd grew eerily silent, almost ethereal in its anticipation. Turning, I found a figure moving through the throng, clad in shadows yet radiating authority. They raised a weapon, a glint sharper than the dart that struck Marie. Enough. The figure bellowed, voice tinged with menace. A hush swept through the onlookers, an electric tension settling in. I felt the weight shift. Were we now at the mercy of something beyond Zach's jealousy and Luke's rage? Who are you? Luke shouted, eyes wild, focused on this new threat, with a smirk cutting across their shadowed face. The figure stepped closer. I'm just here for the entertainment. The crowd shifted like a tide, eyes widening in fear as realization hit. This was a game to them. A sick, twisted spectacle unfolding under streetlights that bathed the scene in innocence and irony stinging like salt on an open wound. Marie, I whispered, my voice cracking as I turned back to her. She looked between me and the figure, a flicker of terror igniting in her expression, but their gaze remained fixed on us. The real fun is just beginning. A loud crack echoed through the air, gunshots ringing like a death toll, shattering the calm once more. I didn't know who had been harmed, who was the target, only that time was slipping away. I had to get Marie to safety. But as the chaos surged anew, I hadn't just started a race against Zach. I was in a fight with fate itself. And the stakes were about to climb higher than I ever imagined. Marie, I shouted again, desperation lacing my voice as I tried to keep her in focus. Her skin was growing pale, and I could almost taste the panic swirling in my chest. I leaned in, feeling the warmth radiate from her as she trembled against the pavement. We'll get you help. I took a breath, fighting a rising tide of helplessness. Behind me, the fight raged on, Luke and Zach looking like marionettes whose strings had been cut. They grappled on the ground, fists flying, where anger had morphed into mindless aggression. The onlookers stood paralyzed as if they were caught in a horrific play with no escape. Their faces turned toward the figure in shadows, who simply watched, relishing the chaos as if it were some spectator sport. The gunshots had fractured the crowd's tension. Murmurs of terror rippled through them, and a few stumbled back in confusion, the reality of the moment finally dawning on them. We need to move. I hissed at Marie, urgency bleeding through every word. I can't, she whimpered as tears glistened in her eyes. I can't feel my leg. Focus on me, I urged, as I pressed my fingers against the makeshift bandage to stem the flow of whatever poison coursed through her. Just breathe, okay? Breathe, Marie. But the reality around us twisted and churned. The figure stepped closer, the weapons still raised, their presence suffocating the air. I caught their eye, and the smirk that rested on their lips sent a chill racing down my spine. They were enjoying this, our pain, our fear. What do you want? Luke shouted, finally tearing himself from Zach's grip. The fight had turned from fists to a battle of intentions, and the crowd was spellbound, waiting for the next twist. Perhaps we should all play a little game? The figure said, eyes dancing with gleeful malice. No games. I barked, adrenaline rushing like wildfire through my veins. Get away from us. The figure's eyes glinted with dark amusement. Oh, but you're already part of it. Someone will have to pay for this delightful spectacle, and I hope it's not her. A violent rage surged within me, an instinctive urge to protect Marie at all costs. If you touch her, you'll what? The figure interrupted, their laughter cutting through the tension like a blade. You have no power here. Suddenly, Zach lunged forward, fueled by the fire of his own rage, but Luke intercepted him. The momentary distraction jostled the clean tension. I felt time stretch, teetering on the edge of calamity. Marie, I murmured urgently, pushing a strand of hair from her forehead, we need to get out of here now. The crowd erupted with a deafening cheer as Zach landed a blow on Luke, a barbaric display of raw aggression. The shadowy figure was unchanged, merely a calm observer amused by the rapid unfurling of discord. With every pulse in my throat, dread pooled heavier. Marie, I whispered, fighting to remain steady. We can't wait. I'll carry you if I have to. Just as I reached for her, the air crackled. The figure raised their weapon, unleashing a barrage of shots into the air, explosions of sound cracking against the night sky. The crowd scattered like loose leaves in a storm, abandoning rational thought for survival instinct. Go! I shouted as I pulled Marie into my arms, adrenaline forcing a surge of strength despite my racing heart. We fled into the waves of chaos. I navigated through scattered bodies, shadows flickering under streetlights that had turned sinister. But out of the chaos, one question fought to the forefront of my mind. Who was the real enemy now? As we darted into an alley, I risked a glance back, dread gripping me as I spotted those shadowed eyes still watching, no intention of letting us slip away easily. "Marie, hold on tight," I urged, pushing forward, desperate to escape the clutches of that malevolent presence. But with every second, I felt the noose tighten around us. What had that figure planned? And who would be the next target in their twisted game? We stumbled deeper into the alley, my heart drumming like a war cry in my chest. The walls crowded us, painted with shadows that flickered and danced, as if mocking our frantic flight. Maria's breath rattled in my ears, each shaky inhale amplifying my panic. I could feel the weight of the night pressing down, a blanket of dread that wrapped around us, muffling our cries. "Just a little further," I muttered, but my voice trembled. Every instinct screamed for us to hide, to stay away from the eyes that watched, but I couldn't stop. Not now. Not when Marie was slipping away from me. I could still feel that smirk, the figure's delight in our terror. It twisted in my gut like a dagger. Who were they? What had they done to revel in our despair? I had to know, was I battling a shadow or a nightmare made flesh? "Please, Marie, hold on," I whispered, feeling her weight becoming heavier in my arms. My hands shook, and I could feel the panic threatening to bubble over. Her eyes were closing, and I brushed my thumb over her cheek, hoping to reassure her, hoping that it would keep her from fading. But I couldn't provide the comfort she needed. I was losing her. Just then, a loud crash echoed from the entrance of the alley. I halted abruptly, pain shooting through my legs as adrenaline surged. The figure had moved. Their intentions were clear. They were following us. I spun around, ready to confront whatever horror was coming. The entrance of the alley was cloaked in shadow, but I could make out a silhouette, a menacing outline that edged closer. With each step they took, my pulse raced faster. "Run!" I shouted, planting my feet in the ground and preparing for a fight. There was a fire in my chest now, fueled by fear and a raw need to protect Marie. I would not let this monster take her away from me, but Marie murmured, "Don't, please." Her voice was brittle, barely above a whisper. I felt her fingers clutch weakly at my shirt. I needed to move, but how could I leave her behind? A sudden crack echoed, and the shadowy figure raised their weapon. My breath hitched. Was this it? I braced myself. But they didn't shoot. Instead, a voice cut through the darkness. "I wouldn't do that if I were you," it sneered, dripping with contempt. It was a voice I recognized, a voice that shattered my resolve. "Shay," I breathed in disbelief. My mind whirled, caught in the webs of betrayal and rage. How could she be tangled in this nightmare? How could she be standing with that monster, aligned with them against us? "Look at the mess you've made," she said, stepping into the light. Her eyes were wild, filled with a mania that stole away the warmth I once knew. "But don't worry, sweet Marie, I have a way to fix all of this." "Fix it?" I yelled, bitterness pouring from my throat. "You've lost your mind. You're working with them. What's the matter, love? Wasn't this what you wanted?" Shay's voice turned syrupy sweet, her lips curling into a sinister smile. "You and Marie have always been so close. It's time to see who really gets to win." I tightened my grip on Marie, feeling her slipping further from consciousness. "This isn't a game." "Oh, but it is," Shay laughed, a sound that sent icy claws creeping down my spine. "And you're just players' sacrifices, really, to entertain the real master." I felt the ground shift beneath us. This wasn't just about us anymore. It was a high-stakes trap, entangled in betrayal, ignorance, and gruesome entertainment. A flicker of movement caught my attention. The figure surged forward with deadly intent, and instinct kicked in. "No!" I roared, but the words barely left my lips before chaos erupted. Maria's body went limp in my arms, and all I could hear was the deafening roar of my own panic, drowning everything else out. As the darkness closed in, I made a vow right then: the game was over. Not yet. I wouldn't let her go without a fight, but when I looked back over my shoulder, the shadows stretched into the unknown, teasingly holding secrets I wasn't ready to face. Who else was part of this twisted game? And how could I possibly navigate it if I was losing sight of my compass? The air was thick with dread as I gripped Maria's fragile form, her breath shallow and erratic. My heart raced, a drum in a silent battlefield, rattling my resolve. Stay with me, I urged, though I didn't know whether I was asking her or myself. The shadows danced ominously at the alley's entrance, but all I could focus on was Marie. I knew I needed to move, to escape the clutches of this nightmare that seemed bent on swallowing us whole. A flicker of movement stirred the darkness. The figure loomed just at the edge, their features obscured. I could almost feel the weight of their gaze, a smirk lurking just out of sight. Shea's laughter echoed in my mind, sweet and taunting, and it filled me with rising anger and despair. What had changed her? What darkness had she embraced? The alley felt impossibly small, each brick pressing down, trapping us in this grim narrative. I took a deep breath, trying to gather strength from somewhere. Could I save her? Was there a shred of hope left in this twisted game? Stand up, I coaxed Marie, desperation edging my voice higher. She stirred, a flicker of awareness lighting her eyes. We can make it. A low growl erupted from the figure. My instincts screamed for me to flee, but I couldn't abandon her, not now, not ever. I'd deface whatever monstrosities stood between us. My doubts shifted into a hard resolve, fueled by the intensity of this moment. Shay, what do you want? I called out into the darkness, my voice steady yet trembling at the edges. If it's a game to you, I'm not playing anymore. The figure shifted, stepping closer, becoming a hazy silhouette. You think you have a choice? Shea's voice was sharp, slicing through the night air. You're in this whether you like it or not. Time to meet the master and see how deep the rabbit hole goes. I clutched Marie tighter, feeling heat radiate off her skin. No one is controlling us. I shouted back. Rage surged through me. I couldn't let her see fear. Before I could react, the figure lunged forward. My instincts kicked in, and I swung around, reflexively preparing to shield Marie from whatever was coming. The air crackled, making the hairs on my arms stand on end. There was something predatory about the charged energy in the alley, the imminent collision of fate closing in. Stop! I yelled with all the force I could muster. I took a defiant step forward, throwing my body in the path of danger. You want me? Come and get me. The shadows swirled ominously, and in that heartbeat, I could feel a shift. The world around us faded into a void of uncertainty, but just as the figure reached for me, a deafening crash boomed through the narrow passage. I staggered backward, nearly losing my grip on Marie. The moment redirected, everything felt suspended, caught in an agonizing stasis. Run! A voice screeched out from behind the chaos. It was an unfamiliar sound, filled with urgency, a beacon from the dark. I hesitated, my mind racing. Could we escape? Would I leave her behind? With every ounce of strength, I hoisted Marie higher, willing her to cling to any last shred of hope. The alley's mouth opened wider, shadows pulling back just enough to glimpse freedom. But did we dare step into the light? Marie, I frantically whispered, can you stand? Her eyelids fluttered, and for a moment it seemed she might respond. That flicker of hope burned through me, but just as quickly, it extinguished with the shadow's return. Then, that menacing silhouette re-emerged, growing closer, laughter mingling with the echo of footsteps. My vision sharpened, and as I prepared to act, fight, run, anything, the fleeting thought struck hard. Could Shay be playing a deeper game, one rooted in chaos far beyond my grasp? With everything on the line, we stood poised at the crossroads, shadows gathering like storm clouds above us. And in the chaos of choice, I realized no matter the outcome, I had to make a stand. But the question hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Could I protect her from the monster lurking in the darkness, or had I already failed? The ground shook with the force of the explosion that had erupted just beyond the alley's mouth, rattling the very bricks surrounding us. But the sound was eclipsed by a chilling cackle from the shadows. Shay's voice twisted around me, echoing like a distant bell tolling doom. Poor little hero, she taunted, her silhouette now advancing like a storm. You think you can save her? You're already too late. I felt my heart pounding in my chest, almost drowning out the confusion in my mind. The urgency of the moment pressed down on me like the weight of the world. I couldn't let a twinge of panic seep into my voice. "Stay back," I shouted, clenching my teeth, determined to shield Marie from whatever evil fabric Shay had woven. Marie's breath hitched under my arm, and I glanced down at her pale face. Even in her weakness, she captured my attention more than any impending threat. "You have to fight, Marie," I urged, desperation creeping into my tone. "We'll get through this together. I promise." Her eyes flickered again, and, for a second, a lucid connection shone through the haze. "Together," she whispered, almost as if she were reminding herself of a sisterhood that currently felt distant. But anything resembling strength faltered as Shay drew closer, her eyes glistening with manic delight. "Do you really think she'll listen to you?" The dark figure sneered, swirling around like smoke. "Every moment she lingers within your grasp is another moment lost to her. Another moment she could become so much more, something powerful." "What do you know about power?" I shot back, narrowing my gaze. "The kind that will take your nightmares and bring them to life," Shay hissed, advancing toward me. "But you're playing a dangerous game, love. Marie is already marked. She can never truly escape. She will only become another piece on my chessboard." I ground my teeth, letting the fury course through me. "Not if I can help it," I yelled, taking a protective stance in front of Marie. The shadows ebbed and flowed around us, dancing to a sinister rhythm, as if they were alive, eager to devour us whole. I needed to inject some reality into this horror, to bring it crashing to a halt. I glanced at the alley's entrance. The light outside was beckoning, teasing me with the possibility of escape. "Marie, listen to me," I whispered, urgency coating my words. "We need to get to the light. That's our way out." But her expression faltered, as though caught in an internal battle. "I can't. I feel it pulling me back. Something wants me," she gasped, eyes darting toward Shay. "No," I insisted, shaking her slightly. "That's the darkness lying to you. You're not meant for this. Fight it." Shay's laughter grew louder, drowning out my pleas. "You're just prolonging the inevitable, darling. She belongs to me now. This is how it's always going to be. Let her go. Save yourself." Maria's eyes met mine, fear mixing with something deeper, something that felt like betrayal. I could see the shadows seeping into her mind, winding tightly around her thoughts. "Help me," she mouthed, desperation evident. In that raw moment of connection, I caught a glimpse of a truth I hadn't wanted to face. Maybe, just maybe, I had underestimated the depth of Shay's hold over her. Time stretched out, wrapping us in dread. I had to make a choice, fight for Marie or risk losing her to this darkness forever. Then I noticed the shadows pulling tauter around Shay, a flicker of hesitation crossing her face. I stood taller, sensing an opening. "Let her go, Shay. She's stronger than you think," I shouted, moving closer, pushing against the current that sought to drown us. The atmosphere shifted minutely, the laughter fading as gravity hung in the air between us. I could feel the intensity of the standoff building, each second fraught with the potential for calamity. "Guess what?" Shay leaned forward, her gaze darkening. "You're not the only one who knows how to play this game." It was then that I realized this was only the beginning of something much more grotesque, a twisted reveal that could cost me everything. As the shadows crawled toward us, the aching question loomed larger than ever. Could I truly protect the one I loved, or was the darkness far deeper than I dared to imagine? The shadows seemed to pulse, alive and hungry as they encroached upon us. I could feel Marie's fear gripping me like a vice, turning my insides to ice. Shay's laughter twisted into a hideous melody, wrapping around us, tightening its chokehold. "Do you hear it?" Shay's voice slithered through the alley. That's the sound of her heart breaking. The echoes of a lost soul. "You're fighting a losing battle, love. I'm not afraid of you," I shouted, though my own voice quivered. Marie shuddered beneath my hand, her breathing shallow and ragged. I needed to reach her before Shay's venomous words consumed her completely. "Marie, you're still with me, right?" I said, my voice dropping to a whisper, trying to hold on to that flicker of connection. "You're not alone. Fight. Fight for us." Her eyes darted wildly, battling shadows and the encroaching darkness. "I can't look at me." I pushed, gripping her shoulders, desperate to anchor her back from the edge. For a brief moment, she focused entirely on me, and I prayed she could see the love and resolve in my eyes. "Remember what we talked about?" I continued, voice raw with urgency. "All those plans? The dreams we built together?" She trembled, but her gaze began to shift, clarity cutting through the fog of fear. I can." Before hope could bloom, Shay hissed, the sound sour and vile. "Stop this now, or she'll suffer more than you can imagine." Her voice dripped with malice, a dagger aimed straight at our bond. "You're being selfish, trying to hold on to her. You know the truth, she craves power, it's calling to her." "No," I shouted back, each word sharper. "She wants life, not your twisted version of power. You can't take that from her." The ground trembled again, a thrumming pulse that resonated through my chest, pushing against me like an invisible wave. Shadows snaked closer, clawing at my resolve. I scanned the edge of the alley. "We need to get to the light." "Stay back," Marie gasped, struggling against the shadows that were now clawing at her very soul. I could see them covering her feet, dragging her down into the dark. "No." I surged forward, my heart hammering, fear battling fury. "Don't let it take you. You are so much more." In that moment, Shay's anger flared. "Foolish boy," she bellowed, the shadows swirling around her like a storm. She's already tasted the darkness. It whispers to her in ways you can't comprehend. Why fight it? It will only end in tragedy. Then an unexpected spark flickered in Maria's eyes, a reminder of the light she once had. I remember the beach," she stammered, her voice suddenly stronger. "The waves, the sun. You promised." Suddenly, realization crashed over me. That was it. I'd been fighting blindly without direction. Yes. Focus on the beach, Marie. Feel that joy, the warmth, the love we shared. As if responding to her own memories, Maria's arm flinched, slowly breaking free from the shadow's grasp. The cackling from Shay transformed into a snarl, threatening and furious. "You think this flimsy connection can save her?" Shay's eyes glowed like embers, rage igniting her features. "You're a mouse playing with a lion." The battle raged within Marie, her features tightening with effort as she wrestled with the darkness pulling her under. But as shadows writhed and twisted around her, I saw something change. Her jaw set, her breath deepened. "Marie," I shouted, feeling desperation buckle into something different, something ferocious and determined. "You are not weak. You're strong. Stronger than this." Her lips compressed, a fire igniting in her eyes as she screamed against the dark. The shadows began to recoil, whispering painfully as if scorched by her resolve. "Keep fighting," I yelled, drawing closer, heart racing wildly. "We're almost there." But just as it seemed the tides might turn, a blinding flash erupted from the alley's mouth. A piercing scream cut through the chaos, freezing my heart. Shay's expression morphed from rage to terror. "No, this can't be happening." Before I could comprehend, the ground shook beneath us again, but this time, it was not merely from Shay's dark power. A new force, something great and overwhelming, pushed its way into our world. "Marie," I yelled, just as the alley around us splintered and cracked. Shay hissed furiously, dimming my hopes, the uncertainty twisting into a fresh dread. As the shadows tore loose from her hold, I felt the ground beneath my feet shift dangerously. "Run, Marie," I urged, panic lacing my words. But as we turned to flee, another explosion rocked the entrance, smoke billowing into the alley like an unwilling specter. The question screamed in my mind, was there truly a way out, or had we simply unleashed something that would swallow us both whole? In that heart-stopping moment, I could only wonder who would emerge as the victor in this catastrophic game, Shay, or the force that seemed intent on turning the world upside down yet again. The ground shuddered around them as the chaos intensified, each violent shake matched only by the pounding of my heart. Marie clung to me, her breath a desperate whisper as she fought to stay conscious. "You have to keep fighting, Marie," I urged, my voice raw with desperation. The alley was collapsing around us, shadows and smoke colliding in a swirl of confusion. Shay's terrifying laughter echoed in the chaos. You can't escape. You'll never, but before she could finish, a surge of light burst through the swirling darkness. The crowd outside had been forced back, eyes wide with terror as chaos unfolded. I squinted through the billowing smoke, trying to catch sight of what had changed. And then I saw the figure emerging, cloaked in a brilliant glow that felt like salvation. "Marie, look!" I shouted, trying to redirect her fading focus. The figure, powerful and commanding, could be our salvation. "Who?" Marie rasped, fighting against the shadows that still sought to pull her down. "Just hang on," I cried, gripping her tightly. The air crackled with energy, a force strong enough to push back the darkness. As the figure approached, I could see their face. It was familiar. A figure from our past, someone who had once been a defender of every good promise made, someone we thought we lost to the shadows. "Mom?" Marie gasped, her voice less than a whisper, but whatever that figure had meant to us, they were here with a purpose. "Marie, you have to step into the light." A voice that felt like home cut through the noise, urging her. "No," Shay screeched, rage and fear collapsing into one. "You'll ruin everything." The shadows around her shifted violently, but the light was too strong, pushing them back like a tide that wouldn't relent. "Do it, Marie," I encouraged, hoping her memories could anchor her here in this moment. "We're with you. You just have to fight." I felt her trembling, a small flicker of strength returning in her grasp. I see it," Marie whispered, her voice strained but gaining ground. "Then let it in. You are not the darkness," I urged, my heart racing with hope. "You're the light." As shadows screamed and writhed, Marie took a shuddering breath. I remember the beach, the laughter, the sun on my skin. There was life igniting in her voice, a light with 1,000 shades, patient and warm. "Reach for it, Marie," I shouted, feeling the gravity of her every word. Shay screeched again, a primal sound of pure rage. "Stop this. You don't understand what you're giving up." But Marie held firm, eyes locked with the radiant presence in front of her. "No, this is where I belong." And with that, the light flared brighter, engulfing Marie in a warm embrace that pushed the shadows to the margins of the alleyway. Shay's furious screams faded beneath the wave as the light twisted and shifted, breaking apart the chaos. In that moment, I felt something shift within myself too. The grip of panic loosened as I believed in Maria's strength and the love that had always anchored us. But Shay refused to give in. "You think this is over?" she hissed, her figure trembling, torn between light and dark. Yet the shadows around her flickered, their grasp weakening. "This ends now," Marie shouted, her voice ringing clear and strong. The light surged forward, enveloping both Shay and the darkness, twisting it into something that could no longer hold its shape. For a brief moment, the shadows fell silent, frightened by the expansive glow, before being consumed, sucked back into the depths from where they came. The eruption of sound was deafening, almost like a quiet going out with a bang. As light enveloped everything, Marie and I stumbled backward, the force toppled us both to the ground. In the sudden quiet, the specter of doom lifted. Marie lay beside me, breathless but alive. The air around us shifted, vibrant and calm. Did we win?" she whispered, staring up at the sky. "Yes," I said, scarcely believing it myself. "You did. We did." I pulled her close, breathless. As she smiled weakly, the echoes of chaos began to fade, like the final notes of a haunting melody. The crowd emerged from dark shadows, faces illuminated with shock and awe. They had witnessed the impossible, and yet here we were, survivors of darkness, standing against all odds. I wanted to hold on to this moment, freeze it in time. But even as we shared a breath of relief, I knew Shay wasn't finished just yet. Somewhere out there, the shadows still lingered, promising the game wasn't truly over, a reminder that darkness could return. I would have to be ready. I couldn't let fear rule me. "I will protect you, Marie," I whispered, holding her tightly, each word a promise warmed by love. "No matter what." She nodded, and in that shared moment, we both knew we had survived the worst. The storm had passed for now, but the fight was far from over. You're not alone, I reaffirmed softly. Not anymore. Together, we can face it all. In the heart of a town where shadows had ruled for too long, we had become the light they feared. But first, we needed to tell our story, our tale of survival, and I hoped it would inspire others to stand against their darkness, to find their light and hold it close. As we stepped out into the embrace of dawn, a new beginning awaited us, one that would not only challenge us, but strengthen the bonds forged in the fires of our past. And as we began to walk away, I felt a powerful urge. I had to share our journey, to convey this hope. So, right here and now, listen closely. You need to subscribe immediately to this channel so you don't miss compelling stories like ours that speak resilience and courage. Smash that like button now to ensure our story can reach those who need it. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the power we all have to conquer darkness. And for the final act, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see that together, we can rise against any storm. This is the moment to show your support so we can inspire others to join this movement and stand against their own shadows. Don't wait even one more second, let's light the way together.